Welcome to Betting Weekly Tennis Live, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is tennis handicapper Tim Dennis. Well, it's been a day of high drama at the Monte Carlo Masters, and it's not over yet. We should rename this the Daniel Medvedev show. He's in action again. Scraped past Karen Khachanov on Monday, having been a set and 4-1 up. He's up against Alexandra Muller now, and it's another tight one. And Medvedev has just won the first set tiebreak by 8 points to 6, if I'm not mistaken. Medvedev now minus 715 to progress. Muller plus 500. Tim, you've been watching this one. It's been a really tight affair.
Yeah, a typical Medvedev game. Long, drawn-out rallies. Muller's done well, had his chances there. Did actually well to save the set from Medvedev taking it without having to go for a tiebreak. But yeah, Medvedev just getting over the line there, and but Muller still in the match, no doubt about that. I'd say still plenty of life left in that game.
Yep, certainly is. Medvedev, I don't know. I mean, he just doesn't look a natural on the clay, does he? He never has that. He still manages to get good results. He still manages to perform well, but you just feel against the top players, he's lacking something, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just falls short, doesn't it? He's played in plenty of Grand Slam finals. We both know that, but like you say, he's just lacking something. I know Sean spoke before about he feels like if he needs to come to the net a bit more, and maybe if you were coaching him, that's probably what you'd say to him, because he is to just make that next level jump, which he hasn't done. He needs to change something, doesn't he? So you may as well give it a go rather than not trying at all. Better to fail by trying than not trying at all, I think. So maybe one day we'll see.
Maybe. There is one other match going on, and this had the makings of a real upset. You'd have been hard-pressed to name many tennis players from Monaco before today. I do remember one a few years ago. I had to look him up, though. Benjamin Ballaret. Well, his half-brother, Valentin Vacherot, ranked 255 in the world, took the first set against Grigor Dimitrov. He broke to lead 3-2 in the second. He was plus 360 underdog before the match. Dimitrov minus 500. And then I think Vacherot realized where he was and what he was doing, because Dimitrov broke straight back. He'd actually then saved 2 break points before holding for 4-3. But then it's been almost one-way traffic since. Dimitrov won the second set 6-4, and he's now 4-1 up in the third, closing in on victory. I was watching a bit of this. Vacherot's serve was quite interesting. I don't know, he's right-handed, but he sort of reminded me a little bit of Goran Ivanisevic's serve, and Dimitrov took a while to work it out. But the Bulgarians are playing quite well now, and I think Vacherot, he did take a medical timeout during the third set, and he's very much up against it. Dimitrov, do you think he's got prospects in this tournament, Tim?
I don't, to be honest. No, I think he's. It's obvious to most people now his best days are probably behind him. And you look at the level some of these guys are playing at. Obviously, Alcaraz today, Bart took a while to get going, but once he did, he looked phenomenal. I thought. Ruud looked very good. I thought again, Tsitsipas too, Draper, Davidovich, Fokina. I just think Dimitrov's going to struggle against the best. I think he might make. He looks like he's going to make the last 16. Obviously, maybe quarters at best, but I don't see him going much further.
As I said, it has been a day of high drama, and I suppose the biggest story: Novak Djokovic. He won't be winning his 100th ATP Tour title this week. Everyone said he had an easy draw, but he's fallen at the first hurdle. Second consecutive defeat to Alejandro Tabilo. Wasn't close either. The Chilean won 6-3, 6-4 in less than an hour and a half. I mean, Djokovic, he had sort of complained about an eye infection in the run-up, but it's a bit of it. Still a big shock.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, yeah, he's played 4 sets against Tabilo now and lost them all, which you wouldn't dream of. And I did see his interview after the game, and he pretty much just said, "Look, I'm only here for Grand Slams, and that's it." That was what I took out of that interview. This is all about warming up for Roland Garros, whether it's here, then Rome and Madrid. Roland Garros is all he cares about. So I don't think it'll be be any skin off his nose that he lost today. Obviously, I'm sure he'd rather win, but I don't think he's going to lose any sleep over it. And all he's worried about is peaking for 3 more events this year. We know what they are, and like he did for the Olympic Games last year, he set his stall out to win that, and he did. And he knows at his stage of life now, the big tournaments are what he wants. And I think all he's worried about is Roland Garros.
Yeah, like all of us, he's got a bit less hair than he used to have, and he's looking after himself. So
still got more than you and me, Rory, though, hasn't he? Okay. Probably a bit more money as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned Carlos Alcaraz, and hats off to Mitch Michaels yesterday, because he said in that match he did fancy Francisco Cerundolo to win the first set, with Alcaraz being a slow starter. And he was spot on, because the Argentine won the first set 6-3. Alcaraz won the next 2 6-love, 6-1. He really woke up, didn't he, the Spaniard? And he didn't have a great time in the States, but back to form, it appears.
Yeah, it did appear so, didn't it? Like you say, well done to Mitch. A good call, that. Cerundolo with the game under his belt already on the surface. Alcaraz started a little bit slow, and Cerundolo took full advantage. But then, I thought set 2, after Cerundolo was broken, he probably took the set off thinking he.
Oh, we've just lost Tim for a second there. I can tell you that Grigor Dimitrov has match point against Valentin Vacherot. 5-1, 40. It's 30-40. It's on Vacherot's serve. Tim, are you back?
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, he's back. He is back. Yeah, Dimitrov's got match point. But you were saying about Alcaraz looking fantastic coming back against Cerundolo.
Yeah, he did. He looked. I thought he looked excellent. His second and third set stats were excellent. I had a quick look. I think his service points and return points in the match were 115 to 85 in his favour, as opposed to in the first set 118 to 82 in favour of Cerundolo. So you can see how much he turned the match around from set 1 onwards. He just looked. He looked the Alcaraz we know and love from previous clay seasons, and it looks like he's probably going to be tough to beat, as the market, I'd imagine, reflect.
Yeah, and obviously with Djokovic going out, you'd think Alcaraz would be a hot favourite. Obviously, there's no outright markets because we've got matches in play. Just the one match in play, because Dimitrov converted that match point, so he is safely through to the last 16. Alex de Minaur dropped the first set against Thomas Mahat, and then it's a bit like Alcaraz came roaring back. Bagel in the second set, took the decider 6-3. The Aussie, he's well used to playing on clays. He's someone who can contend here in Monte Carlo.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me now, Tim? No, just having a few audio issues. I was going to ask Tim if he thought the Aussie, Alex de Minaur, could contend here in Monte Carlo. And another man going through, we mentioned Stefanos Tsitsipas, 3-time winner, of course, of this tournament. He's through to the next stage. Just bring you up to date with what's going on live at the moment. It started off with serve in the second set. Medvedev taking that first set on the tiebreak. And Muller held serve at the start of the second. Medvedev has just held serve. So it's 1 game apiece early in the second set. The live odds, Medvedev -670 with Bet Rivers, Alexandra Muller +450. So that's a match you can still get involved with. Tim, are you back with us? Tim can't hear me, unfortunately. Well, let's have a look at some of the other highlights. And it's funny because on Monday, we talked about Medvedev and his comeback. On Monday, Nigel Seeley was on. He opposed Flavio Cobolli and Francis Tiafoe in their opening matches, having had deep runs last week. Obviously, Cobolli won the tournament. Tiafoe reached the final. They both prevailed on Tuesday, but they were beaten today. Cobolli going down 6-2, 6-4 to Arthur Fils, and Tiafoe won the first set, but then lost 6-3 in the third to Alexei Popyrin. So both of those guys, Nigel was right in the end. He wasn't right first time, but he was right second time. The auto fade, the patented Sealy auto fade came good today. Cobolli and TFO both going out. Suddenly I was Tim Dennis for a sec. We're back. Tim's just leaving and just going to try and come back, and hopefully that will fix the audio issues that we have. So we've got a match going on, Medvedev against Muller, 1-1 in the second set. We're also going to be having a bit of a look towards futures, as in the Slam. We've got the French Open, we've got Wimbledon. Another thing that Nigel was saying on Monday was he was thinking that Matteo Berrettini might beat Alexander Zverev, and looking at him as a bet for Wimbledon. He was $40. He got that done. Well played, Nigel. And the Italian Berrettini, I think he is still $40 for Wimbledon, which does look a big price given his game. We know his serve. And I can see Tim. Can Tim hear me? I can hear Tim. I can hear Tim tapping away on his keyboard, but he can't hear me yet. Hopefully he'll be back with us very shortly. Let's see. Medvedev now could be about to get a break point against Alexandre Muller. It's 15-30 on the Frenchman's serve. So the Russian could have a chance to go a break up in the second here.
There we go, Rory. Sorry about that.
There we go. Tim is back. Welcome back, Tim. I was just sort of talking through a couple of the things that have happened in Monte Carlo today. And I mentioned the Nigel Sealy auto fade finally worked because Cobolli and TFO obviously did so well last week. Both went out today. What would be the biggest thing you took out of the day? I guess it would probably have to be Alcaraz, just the way he came back.
I think so, yeah. Just his level, like you say, very high. I was quite impressed with Casper Ruud. Back on his favourite surface. Batista got no mug, and he demolished him. Obviously, tougher test to come for Ruud, but I thought he looked quite sharp and obviously had a good pre-season on the clay.
Yeah, Casper Ruud beating Roberto Bautista Agut 6-2, 6-1. So a very lopsided victory there. I said Medvedev might have break point. He hasn't. Muller's won the first two. It's now 40-30 to the Frenchman. Other results today, Musetti beating Lehechka, coming from a set down. He lost the first set 6-1, came back to win. Davidovich, Fokina, he's also through. Richard Gasquet, I believe that's the end of the road for the Frenchman, isn't it? I think he's retiring after this tournament. He went down in 3 sets to Daniel Altmaier. I think Daniel Altmaier he had match point in the second set, and Gasquet somehow saved it, came back, but the German eventually getting through. Is that right that Gasquet's retiring after this tournament?
I'm not sure if it's this tournament, but I know it's certainly his last Monte Carlo.
Right. Okay.
Whether he's going to do a little bit of the French tournaments indoor at the end of the year, I wasn't certain whether he was or not, but I know it's his last Monte Carlo.
Okay, got you.
Just going back to the Italians, Musetti you talked about, he now plays Berrettini tomorrow in the Battle of the Italians, so that looks set to be a cracker.
Shall we look ahead to tomorrow's game? Muller's just held serve 4-2-1 in the second set. Shall we have a quick look at tomorrow's matches and see if there's anything you fancy there? A really interesting encounter, a couple of interesting encounters. I'm immediately drawn to the one at the bottom of the screen there, Andrey Rublev against Artur Fils. Rublev a slight favourite at -125, Fils +100 even money. The spread 1.5 games, total games 22.5. Have you got a view on that one, Tim?
I didn't have a strong view, but if the view I did have that I came to was probably over games, I thought it would probably it could well go the distance. So either over games or or over 2.5 sets was my lean on that one. But it wasn't it was just an opinion rather than a strong dictated sort of data view. There was a couple I fancied in the other game, but yeah, that was probably would be a lean, would be overs for me, that side of it. I could see it going long.
Tsitsipas, I mentioned, of course, he won yesterday rather than today, the 3-time winner in Monte Carlo, -500 against Nuno Borges. And of course, Carlos Alcaraz, as you mentioned, winning today. He's up against Daniel Altmaier. Alcaraz -1,000. Anything in those two matches, perhaps, or do you think the bookies have got those priced up right?
Yeah, probably as far as the prices go. A couple of on the main bets there, probably about right. But there was a couple of bets I liked in both games, actually, and it's sort of fairly similar on both markets. I liked was Borges under 9.5 total games was probably where I was going to go with that one at -115. Tsitsipas obviously loves it here. Great record, 3-time winner, won it last year. He met him in Rome in 2023 and beat him 6-3, 6-3 fairly comfortably in similar conditions. So yeah, I just thought Tsitsipas, would probably get the better of him fairly comfortably. And I just thought, Borges, I think under 9.5 games, -115. Borges had a marathon, played for 3 hours and 10 minutes today against Martinez. Real physical game. I think there was 245 points in that game. So he'll need a good masseuse tonight to work on him. But I thought Tsitsipas coming in fresher, like only one head-to-head meeting, but a fairly dominant display in similar conditions. So yeah, I thought Borges would do well to get 10 games. So yeah, under 9.5 games for me in that one.
I just saw one of the comments from Dean Blake. Tsitsipas kind draw. Do you think he can get to the final?
I think that's a fair point of kind draw. I certainly wouldn't put it beyond him with his record here. Tomorrow will be another step, but I'd like to think, like I just said, I think he'll take care of Borges fairly comfortably. And yeah, a kind draw, and no reason to think he won't, I don't think.
Yeah, I've just noticed that Dimitrov, after beating the home favourite Vacherot, will now play Djokovic's conqueror, Alejandro Tabilo. Obviously, that's not priced up yet. 2 more matches tomorrow for us to look at. You mentioned the all-Italian clash, Matteo Berrettini and Lorenzo Musetti, but that bottom match could be very interesting. I mean, as anyone who's seen me on here before, women's tennis is most definitely my thing. I do have the odd dabble in men's tennis, and yesterday was proof that I really should stick to women's, because I thought Marcus Giron might give Jack Draper a game, and the Brit won 6-1, 6-1. So that shows I should stick to women's tennis, really. But I was surprised. The reason I went for Giron was because obviously Draper, we know his game. Big serve, big ground strokes. On this slow clay, I thought he was vulnerable, but he was excellent yesterday.
Yeah, wasn't he just? He was very impressive against Giron. Obviously, he's going to have a tougher game tomorrow against Davidovich Fokina, who has already played a big serving left-hander in Ben Shelton and has taken care of him. So I don't think
Perfect prep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Obviously, he won today against Echeverry, I think. This will be their first meeting, so there's no head-to-head record between the two. But like you say, he's had a good prep against a big serving left-hander. So obviously a clay specialist. I've been impressed with Draper, though. So, I mean, I wouldn't have a strong opinion on which way that game would go. But, I mean, Davidovich Fokina is a clay specialist. So I think if you were going to lean one way, plus 150, you'd probably lean there. But, I mean, I've been super impressed with Draper all year, and for me, he's been the positive of the year so far, and there looks a lot to come for him. He's obviously, I think he's worked massively on his physical efforts, because he was always known to be a little bit weak. I mean, I look back to, funny enough, he played Giron at the Australian Open, not this year, the year before, and that went to a 5th set, and I would certain Giron would get the better of him for those physical weaknesses, and Draper took that set, won the match. I think he was actually sick in the bin afterwards. But he's clearly worked hard on that fitness level. And yeah, he looks to be going the right way, doesn't he? Obviously, with what he did in Indian Wells, and I think you can forgive him his first round exit in Miami. He's probably still on a come down from his big week there. But obviously, the Grand Slams are a little bit different. These 5 sets we talk about against the world's best, up to 6 in the world now. But you can't not be impressed by what he's done.
Well, he's $33 for the French Open, just looking there. Alcaraz, the plus 150 favourite. Sinner, of course, he's off at the moment. He's suspended. He'll be back for Rome, and so we'll have a bit of prep before Roland Garros. Sinner is plus 180. Djokovic plus $900, $9. Zverev, $11, who, well, you could add a zero onto that, couldn't you, the way he's playing at the moment. Tsitsipas, $25, Rude, $30, and then Draper. So Draper is the joint 7th favourite, which is, given that he doesn't have much form on clay, probably he's a bit short, isn't he?
I think for the clay, I think if you were going to choose of the 3 majors that are left, you'd be leaning towards the other 2 for Draper. Probably the French would be the bottom of that 3 pile. But I think like Dean says there, maybe give him a break because he lost the eventual winner in Miami in his first round. So yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, that is a fair point. So I mean that's we were sort of saying how impressed we were. So that's another tick in the box for being impressed, I think.
Yeah, I mentioned Wimbledon earlier with regards to Matteo Berrettini. He's still $40 for Wimbledon.
Yeah, I think we know Nigel's very keen on him, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a price worth playing at. Draper's $8. Sinner's the plus 160 favourite. Alcaraz plus 200. Djokovic plus 550. Draper the 4th favourite, and then it's $15 bar those. I mean, obviously we're in the clay court season, so it might be a little bit early to be thinking about Wimbledon. But do you think anyone sort of sticking out to you for Wimbledon, perhaps?
Not at this moment, I don't think. I think you're obviously going to have. It'll be interesting to see how Sinner comes back, won't it?
Yeah,
he's obviously starting first on the clay, but you wouldn't think he's lost any of his level. There's no reason why he should have done. And I think come the back end of the season, it's actually going to prove an asset to him this time off, because you'll get those guys that have had long years and he'll still be relatively fresh. But it will be interesting to see him come back, because obviously he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny from not just the media but his own peers. I think how they'll react to him is anyone's guess. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes first and foremost, I think.
Well, of course, you had obviously the PTPA headed by Novak Djokovic going off on one after Sinner's ban, and this is all political and all quite a little unseemly, perhaps, and a bit of a distraction from the actual play. Going back to the French, I mean, who would be your idea of a French Open winner at this moment in time?
He's probably not a huge amount of value, but I think it probably would be Alcaraz. Obviously, previous winner. Zverev looks lost at sea at the moment. I think I did see. I think Rude was plus 3,000. I looked before we went online today. So I thought of the ones at a big price. He would probably be one. Previous finalist. Obviously, he got spanked by Nadal in that final, but he's not the only player that's happened to in his career. So we all know he's about a couple of months of the season as well. Rude, isn't he? He's clay court out and out, and he'll be putting everything into it as they all will. But I thought at the bit of value he was probably at plus 3,000. I thought of the bigger players, if I had to put my life on one, it would be Alcaraz. But yeah, the outsider to look at a bit of value would be him, I think.
Alcaraz plus 150, and as you say, Casper Ruud $30. Just to bring you up to date with the live match in progress, it's still going with serve in the second set. Medvedev winning the first on a tie-break against Alexandre Muller, and Medvedev's just held for 3 apiece. In play odds, Medvedev minus 560 and Muller plus 400. We have the daily double on Betting Weekly Tennis Live. And Tim, you've been going through tomorrow's matches. What would make up your daily double?
Yeah, I think just to add, I'll stick the Borges under 9.5 total player games, and I thought I'd stick in Alcaraz under 12.5 total games is -137. So I think I'd double those up. He's -315 to win in straight sets. So as long as Altmaier doesn't take him to a tiebreak, you'll cash that bet. Like I said, he had a slow start today, but then turned it on. These are his perfect conditions. Big event, big crowd. They'll be out to see Alcaraz tomorrow. Altmaier played 3 sets today against Gasquet, so a little bit took out the tank there. I think Alcaraz will take care of him fairly comfortably. And I just thought if he's -315 to win in straight sets, I thought under 12.5 games at -137 was probably where I'd go there. So I'd take -137 Alcaraz under 12.5. Along with Borges under 9.5 total games in his game against Tsitsipas.
Right, I'm just going to try and
see what that pays.
Yeah, I'm going to try and see what that pays. So Borges, was it under 9?
Under 9.5. Yeah, it was -115 when I saw it.
Okay, I've got to find the bet now. We'll get there eventually. There we go. -118. So the double plays +207. So that's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah,
that's the daily double. Tim's daily double +207. So under 12.5 total games for Carlos Alcaraz and under 9.5 games for Nuno Borges. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be it. That's where we're going tomorrow. So all being well.
That is the daily double. Just generally, Tim, on in-play betting, what's your kind of approach? I mean, it's different. I mean, I stick to the women's game largely, and obviously the big difference in the service hold. You know, obviously in the women's game, it's much more difficult for the women to hold serve than the men. But do you tend to get involved in play particularly?
A little bit. I think the majority of my betting will be done before the match starts. But then I think you obviously watching a match, you'll have an opinion. And I think as far as betting in play goes, the main thing to do is to know the players, to know their traits, their previous records, the surfaces, their head-to-head records as well. I mean, if let's say you've got two guys playing each other that have a 5-0 record, and the guy that's 0 for 5 has won the first set, then obviously you know that already, so you can check the odds there. A perfect example was actually I was on the show with Steve Wiss on Betting Weekly Live on Friday, and a perfect example was a WTA game with Danielle Collins and Jesper Gula were playing, and I was on the show, and I said to Steve during the game, I think Collins routed her in the first set. I think she demolished her 6-1, and that was the kind of game where Collins had never beaten Pegula. And for me, Collins is the kind of player, she wears a heart on her sleeve. She lets you know how she's feeling. And she would have known that she'd never beaten Pegula. And she was playing lights out tennis. And as great as the lights out tennis is, it doesn't last forever.
No, definitely not.
As soon as you make one unforced error, that mental doubt can creep in. It happens with all of us. All the best players, I'm sure, and one leads to two, and I think she won the first at 6-1. She led 2-0 in the second, and then she won one more game in the rest of the match, and she went from playing like the world's best player to, I mean, she wouldn't have beaten a top 300 player for the rest of the match, and Pegula took full advantage. So I think you just need to know your players. Like I said there, Collins, she'll let you know how she's feeling. She's not afraid to interact with the crowd for probably the wrong reasons at times. And then, yeah, like I said, that phenomenal tennis she played doesn't last forever. And as soon as one error crept in, the others crept in, and she ended up imploding.
She certainly did. It just reminds me of I was betting in play for Caroline Garcia. I can't remember where it was. She was playing Leylah Fernandez. And I was just watching it thinking Garcia was playing absolute lights out tennis in the first set. And every time she got a break point, she was break point down. She produced a big first serve. And I remember thinking, there's no way she can keep this going. And of course she did keep it going and I lost my money. But, you know, it's kind of, I'm kind of interested in the philosophy. So today, for instance, when Alcaraz dropped the first set, would that have been a moment when you thought, he's going to come back, isn't he?
I mean, historically, you think he would, but I mean, like, it's only his second ever match at Monte Carlo. We know how good Cerundolo has been so far this year. I think in weeks to come, it would have been an option for me to get involved there after losing the first set. But for me, the struggles Alcaraz has had so far this year, we haven't seen him at his best. So you probably need, for me today, you needed to see a game or two for him to do that. So perhaps now in the future, even though you might be taking slightly less odds, if he does go and lose a first set again, time will tell. I'm sure he will in time, but whether it's going to be in this tournament, who knows? Maybe even tomorrow. Hopefully not for our bet. But I think as far as today goes, it was a hold fire and it'd be learnings. The best thing the biggest advice I would have as far as tennis in-play betting goes is even if you're not having a bet, watch it because you will learn. And then I'd also write things down. I'm always writing information down every game I watch. So I've always got something to look back on because you'll remember most of it, but you'll forget stuff. And if you've got it written down that so-and-so had a 4-love lead in the third and let that slip, and then they might have done it previously as well, you can always learn and go back and look. So the biggest thing for me in play is to watch as much as you can, and then that's the way you'll learn and improve, and then you'll get your chances, I think.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for your time, Tim. I'll just bring you up to date before we go. Second set still going with serve. Alexandra Muller leading Daniil Medvedev 4-3. The Russian took the first set 7-6. Tim, you'll be back on Monday, I believe. I think you're back with Mitch Michaels on Monday.
Yeah, back with Mitch on Monday. Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, we'll know the winner of this tournament by then.
Yeah. Where are the men next week? I know the women are in Stuttgart, but the men.
Women are in Stuttgart. I haven't checked on the men's for next week, so I'm going to have to pass on that question. For
okay.
Just been concentrating this week, but Stuttgart I was looking forward to. So obviously no defending champ there this year. Rebecca is playing Billie Jean King, isn't she? I think.
Is that right? So she's not playing Stuttgart?
No, she's currently in Brisbane as we speak.
Wow.
Playing for Kazakhstan. So I'm not quite sure the reason behind that, but she says she wants to represent her adopted country, so that's what she's doing. Interesting.
Well, next week on the men's tour, it's Barcelona and Munich at the same time, both 500 tournaments. And yes, Stuttgart, which is I'm really looking forward to because it's such an elite field. It's such a sort of crammed tournament because it's quite a small draw. But there are no easy matches in Stuttgart. So you often get some upsets. And of course, it's indoors, which makes it quicker than most of the tournaments. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to hearing your views on Stuttgart, Barcelona and Munich on Monday. You'll be with Mitch Michaels. Thanks for joining us on Betting Weekly Tennis Live. And make sure you join the team again next Monday. And of course, there is Betting Weekly Live recorded earlier, looking ahead to tonight's Champions League soccer games, quarter-final action. We had drama last night with Arsenal beating Real Madrid 3-0. I live in Madrid and it was very quiet where I was, I can tell you that. But that's something to look forward to. So once you've finished watching this, hop over to check out Betting Weekly Live for the best tips on tonight's football action. Thanks again for joining us and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.